You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
I'm Drew Leiter.
And I'm Cletus Jacobs.
And welcome to episode 13 of the Legends of the DCU Podcast. Tonight we're talking the Supergirl movie, and we've got some guests joining us. Let's welcome Mike Gordon from the Bat Chums.
Howdy.
Long time no see.
Well, it is longer now. We do go through longer periods where we don't see each other. But no, it's been a long time since I've joined you guys. So thanks again for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yes, I think the last time you were on was for the Superman movie last year.
Might have been. That feels like a long time ago.
And also joining us tonight is Ashley Pauls.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's always fun talking movies with you guys.
And it's been a few years since you've been on with us.
I was trying to think the last time. I know I didn't get to talk about the new Superman movie, so I was trying to think what the last DC movie I got to chat about was.
I don't remember either. We were still Earth Station DCU at that time.
Yeah, I think so. So at some point back in the distant past.
Yep. All right. Well, let's dive into the Supergirl movie. I was checking box office numbers
Don't
earlier, and
it hurts.
True.
It looked like 38 million domestically and approximately 70 million worldwide.
Mm.
Okay, so I don't want to alarm anybody, but these are Morbius numbers.
Worse than Morbius numbers.
These are terrible. So yeah, maybe alarm some people because this is bad. This is really, really bad.
In terms of box office, one of the Superman did so well last year domestically that it kind of covered up the fact that it didn't really do very hot overseas, which is during this boom of superhero movies has really been where, I mean, they've done well here, obviously, but they've made their bank overseas, and Superman didn't. It was very much driven by the domestic market. And so when the numbers came out yesterday that Supergirl was only in the high 30s domestically, it was like, oh no, because it's not going to get saved by the international market. I know for whatever reason, the Super family in particular doesn't seem to have much pull for whatever reason that is. Maybe because they lean more American. I don't know. But just in general, I mean, even if you look at the other films that came out last year, Fantastic Four tanked internationally also. Thunderbolts was not great internationally either. And both of those were good movies. And Superman was a good movie. So it wasn't necessarily any of those three being a quality issue, at least in my opinion. Those were all good movies that international market just had no interest in seeing. And Supergirl clearly is continuing that trend. And I think that going forward, DC is going to have to factor that in and really reconsider how they're approaching things.
Yeah, I mean, this leads all kinds of questions that, I don't know, I think right now everything's safe as far as James Gunn and everything, because he's already started production on the second Superman movie. I know that they've shot some of it in Atlanta. I've seen pictures from folks that have peered and peeped on the production downtown. So I know that they're going to have another Superman movie next year, so that's a good thing. But you know, I think this does call into question some of the other moves that Gunn in particular has made, especially with the new ownership. We don't know how that's going to play out going forward anyway. And I don't know. I mean, look, Ashley and I have been trying to predict box offices for a long time now. And you're right, Cletus. It's never about quality, or it's seldom about quality, because sometimes the stuff that's like number one is not great. And
I mean, if you look at some of the big hits from the superhero era, not all of them were particularly good, but they still made like they still did well financially. And in my opinion, the trend in this last year, it is not, at least for the international audience, it has not been about quality, which is fascinating. It really, I think, signals, to me, this should be a huge red flag in terms of if you're relying solely on the domestic market, should your film be $100+ million budget? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this didn't even do Star Wars, Mandalorian and Grogu numbers this year, and that cost significantly cheaper, I think, to make. So I think there will be decisions made on that part as well. Trying to figure out exactly what's going on. It's probably a mix, a blender mix of a lot of things. But I think the real test, at least this year, will be Spider-Man next month. Because if Spider-Man
Yes.
can't hold foreign and domestic, then I think the Hollywood superhero movies, big ones, are going to be done, which is unfortunate because Doomsday opens
I know. It's
later
like,
this year. So it's like, they're still banking on it. But I do think, Spider-Man traditionally has always overperformed. So we'll see how well that does. But as far as DC goes, yeah, they don't have another card to play unless it's Batman.
I'm expecting Spider-Man to do pretty good.
Let's see. I
it's,
at this point I'm not making any, like, I don't know. I think
I
so,
know, I
but
know, I know it's kind of up in the air, but I don't know. My gut's telling me Spider-Man's probably going to do pretty well.
Going to be interesting to see because I am obviously, as a comic book fan, I'm extremely interested in the Spider-Man film, but I feel like they have put the least amount of reason to go see it for a casual fan that I can think of for the Tom Holland films. Like, who's the villain
mm,
of the movie?
yeah,
We
we
don't
don't know.
really know. And like, I'm okay, to be clear, I'm personally okay with that, but I'm going to go see it anyway. I'm not the audience that they need to reach out and get. So I'll be curious to see, like, if Spider-Man doesn't do well, which I'm not saying is going to happen, but if it doesn't do well, again, I think it's another red flag for superhero films. But also, I think it would show, even with Spider-Man, you got to do a little bit more to get the audience there besides just being about Spider-Man. Like, give them more. I don't know. I'm very fascinated specifically by that one because I really feel like the marketing has basically just been, it's the next Tom Holland one, go see it.
Yeah.
Which it's a fair argument. I am
yeah,
interested in
yeah.
seeing it, but I don't know. It's you know what I mean? Like, there's not the big, it's not the big next thing like Secret Wars will be, or Doomsday, sorry, at the end of the year. So be very, very interested to see that one. And I will also be interested to see how Clayface does as a low budget,
Yeah.
seemingly disconnected. It seems to just be kind of its own thing. Well, I don't know that it matters. I'll be curious to see how that one does. I'm not expecting that one to do big numbers by any means, but if it can like turn a profit, you know what I mean? More like a Shazam 1 kind of numbers, be a modest hit for the budget. I think that would still, leave some room for optimism that maybe you got to change your strategy on what audiences are looking for. But if Clayface tanks too, then you've done two you've tried a tent
Mhm.
pole and you've tried a niche one and they both failed.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
I
know.
I must say, I mean, as Clayface goes, I have a lot of questions about that being released at all, to be honest with you. But I think in this case, their best option or their best marketing strategy is to not do whatever they can to not say it's a superhero movie,
Mhm.
and instead a cool little horror movie, because those are doing gangbusters. I
Oh
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Obsession
Yeah.
and Backrooms are just tearing it up on the box office this summer, which is not something that, we saw it all coming.
Yeah.
And if Clayface can get a piece of that rather than any sort of, Batman or superhero like push, there's no rub there. There's no rub coming from the superhero genre at this point. It's more of a rub from the horror genre. So
Mhm.
maybe it's a smart move on their part. Maybe if they just completely act like it's just its own thing, then it'll do pretty well.
Now, I'm curious. When I went and saw Supergirl, I saw it on Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. I saw it on IMAX, and I'm estimating there's probably 40 to 50 people in the theater. So I was kind of curious when you guys went and what the theater was like when you went.
It was very, I would say, lightly attended, strangely light. I went Sunday evening showing. Now, to be fair, I do live in a college town, so all the students are gone, so traffic can be a little bit lighter, but definitely way fewer people in the IMAX screen than I was expecting. I would say the people that were in there did seem to enjoy it, but I was expecting to see more people there.
So in our market, I wouldn't say this is all of Atlanta, but certainly in our area, the premium screens during the day were still reserved for Toy Story 5.
Mm.
So the only time that you could see it on a premium screen, like a Dolby screen or IMAX or anything like that, was at night. Michelle and I don't really do night movies, and Michelle went to this movie with me, which was glad. She's been to all the summer movies with me this year, which is
Oh, that's
amazing.
cool.
And we can talk about that a little bit because she knew nothing about the source material. She hadn't even seen Superman. So, like, she's really like, she had fresh eyes seeing this movie, which I thought was interesting from her perspective. But in any case, yeah, so we saw it in the daytime at a decent theater, but it was not a premium screen. So it was a little cheaper, so that was nice.
That
And
helps.
there wasn't many people in there. I think there was maybe 10 of us. And this is on Saturday at 10:45 a.m. Now, there was a 9:45 show on a screen. There was a 10:45 which we went to. There was an 11:45, there was a 12. Like there were showings on the hour for this at this theater. So you could just see it whenever you wanted, depending on what screen you were going to want to see it on. But you would have had to see it at a less premium screen if it was during the day. I don't know how the nighttime ones did. I didn't really look to see what their availability was like. But yeah, so that was our experience, Drew.
I went on a Saturday afternoon and it was like 60 to 70% full, and not a particularly large theater, that screen specifically. It didn't feel like an opening weekend audience. It felt more like I was going to catch it later in the week with the number of people that were there.
Now, at my theater, they were giving away a comic book. I was curious, were they at you guys' theaters giving away a comic book?
I
No,
got one as well.
That's cool. I did not get one. I heard they were only available Thursday and Friday. I mean, I saw some of the other merch, the popcorn buckets and all that, but I did not see any comics. But I did not see it in IMAX, and I think that was an IMAX screening giveaway as well. So
Hmm.
it could be that could be the reason. I don't know. I didn't really ask about him, but I do know a few people that I know went to the theater over the weekend and they wanted to get a comic book and they couldn't because they were out already. So yeah, I didn't get one though. Is it
I didn't
just
get one
part
either.
of Woman of Tomorrow? I mean, the cover is very Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like the
Looks like
first issue of Woman of Tomorrow. It looks like it was printed specifically for the giveaway because it says
Yeah,
DC Studios on it, and it also says film for IMAX. So
yeah.
Mm.
I flipped through it. It was basically the first issue of Woman Tomorrow. Had some advertisements for the absolute titles. It has Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and Absolute Batman
Is there an
ads
absolute
in it.
Supergirl yet?
I don't believe
No,
so.
No.
no. I don't even know that they've hinted in at least where Drew and I are at in the Absolute Superman book. I don't even know if they've hinted that she exists.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't think they mentioned her at all. So, but things keep expanding for the Absolute universe. So,
Oh yeah. It's a hit.
yes, it
Huge hit.
is.
It's a
Huge
hit, as the kids say. At least the comic industry has, then DC Comics has that going for it, and they got a pretty solid comic hit on their hands. So that's pretty good.
Let's dive into the movie. So, let me give a little synopsis here. Struggling to reconcile her Kryptonian heritage with her place among the stars, Kara is drawn into a dangerous adventure when an innocent girl seeks her help against a powerful enemy. Traveling across distant worlds, Supergirl faces ruthless foes, forges unexpected alliances, and learns what it truly means to be a hero. So I know me and Cletus have read the comic book because we reviewed it on Legends of, or actually it was Earth Station DCU at the time, several years ago when it came out. And I know Mike has read it too because we were talking about it the other week. But I'm curious, I don't know if you read comics or not. Ashley, did you read the comic for this?
So my geek confession is that getting more into comics is on my long-term list of things I want to do as a geek. I have two small children, so I have found that my geek media time has kind of shrunk a little bit. So sadly, I still have that long list of things I want to get to, but I always try to go in like I have an appreciation for the source material. Like I realize I'm a huge fan of superhero movies, and I know that when I go to see one, even if I haven't read the comic myself, there's a lot of material behind that, and there's a lot of fans and history and tradition that made it possible for me to watch the movie I'm watching. so I always have a lot of respect for the original source material, even if I'm not familiar with it. I always enjoy talking with people who have read the source material to see what the watching experience is as someone who's just coming at it from the film perspective versus people who know about the backgrounds in the comics and if that impacts the viewing experience at all.
Do you have any experience with Supergirl as a character at all, like in her previous movies or TV shows or anything like that,
Have
cartoons or anything?
seen some of the stuff on the CW. I was really into all those, the CW DC universe when that stuff was going on. I was primarily an Arrow fan, but I enjoyed all the crossovers. So I was immediately intrigued when I saw the trailers for the Supergirl because it's like, oh, this is a very different Supergirl than I have seen portrayed and hinted at. And I was very kind of like excited and intrigued by the fact that it looked like it was such a different take from what you might assume that like Superman's cousin looks like she's kind of a disaster. And so I was very intrigued to see how they would do that.
Now, one of the I was because Cletus and I had reviewed this, and I actually reread Woman of Tomorrow before going into the movie because I was curious how much of the graphic novel was going to be in the movie. And when I went in and started watching the movie and we got into the first part where we find out what happens with Ruthie's family, once I started seeing what they were doing, I was like, okay, it seems like they're going to kind of deviate. It was going to be loosely based on the graphic novel. And at that point, when I was watching the movie, I kind of set aside the expectations that we were going to have a lot of stuff from the graphic novel in it. And going in with that mindset, I think I enjoyed the movie more than if I was trying to compare it to the graphic novel the whole time.
There are some differences to be sure. I imagine we'll talk about those on a spoiler level. But the basic spine is there, I think, from the graphic novel. But also, I'm curious, Ashley, did you recognize any other movie that, especially one that you and I have reviewed together, that this plot seems very similar to?
Oh gosh, yeah, putting me on the spot here.
No, I just wanted to see if it clicked with you at all, because a few years ago when we were reviewing Westerns, there's a couple of Westerns. I think we saw both versions of this.
Oh, True Grit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's hitting me now. Oh, very interesting. And
yeah.
I loved both versions of True Grit. So
yes. I just wondered if the overlay, because when I read the graphic novel, I've read the graphic novel just only like a month or so ago. But when I read the graphic novel, that was the thing that hit me. I was like, this is True Grit with Supergirl in it instead of John Wayne or Jeff Bridges, right? Because it's the same kind of story that plays out. So yeah, very, very similar to True Grit.
I noticed watching online reviews of it, people were mentioning True Grit.
Mm-hmm.
I never seen it, so I didn't know exactly what it was, but other people recognize that too.
Yeah, that's a really interesting comparison. Drew, I have to agree with you. I think watching it without the expectations of it doing what the comic does is wise if you've read the comic, because I don't think it holds up as well to the story that the graphic novel tells. And we can get into some of that later, but I do think it hits many of the broad strokes of the story. I think there were even some things like the green sun and certain things that I wasn't sure we would see. They got more of the kind of small details than I think I would have thought in some instances. But then there were some other kind of bigger changes that I wonder, not from a fidelity to the comic, but I wonder if they, from a movie viewing perspective, if it would have made a potentially more interesting experience, but we can get into that later. But for me, it was not an unfaithful adaptation, but it's very much similar to what we see a lot where the movie's not as good as the book, and that doesn't matter if it's, a graphic novel or a regular novel.
After watching the movie, I was curious what other people were thinking. I was surprised how many video reviews I saw online about this movie. There were people that loved it. There was people that were upset. And I think a lot of people that were comparing it to the graphic novel were upset. I'm glad I didn't go in with that mindset because I really enjoyed it. Thought it was fun.
I think for me, there was some things that sort of to Cletus' point, there were some things that the graphic novel did better, but there were also some things that the movie did better. I don't know. For me, it's more of a toss-up between obviously it used it as the spine of the story, but it did tell its own story. But I did find that I think the most contentious fans that I saw that were angry were about the ending.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And how different that was from the graphic novel. So that, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. So
So I guess my next question is, what do you think of how Millie Alcock portrayed Supergirl?
I was a huge fan. I have been a fan of her since I saw her on House of the Dragon. She is still my favorite part of that show, even though she's not on it anymore. And I thought she was an incredible actress. So as soon as it was announced that she was playing Supergirl, I was all in on this movie. And I think she does a great job portraying a different type of female superhero than we've gotten to see before. I like that they let her be messy and complicated. She doesn't have everything together. She's not necessarily heroic when we meet her in the beginning. I think that can be a tricky role to pull off, but I thought she did a really good performance.
I thought she was great too. I really enjoyed her. I enjoyed the performances of all the actors of the core cast. I really had no complaints about any of them. Momoa was exactly what you want as Lobo. I liked
Yes.
the actress that played Ruthie. I thought she did a great job. Like you were just saying, Millie Alcock I thought played the character really well and had that balance of like being messy, but not so much so that it becomes hard to like the character.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the big shames potentially of this movie bombing is that they got a really good actress to play the character. I worry that they won't want to give her more opportunities, but she was not the problem. Box office or
Yeah.
quality or whatever
Yeah.
you want to get into, she's great.
No, I hope to see her again as Supergirl as well, and to see that actress in other roles because I think she has a great range. I hope we see more of her both in this franchise and outside of it as well.
Like you, Ashley, I think I first saw her in House of Dragon, and when when that show switches and you're unprepared for the switch and she's gone, I know I felt like a lot of people. I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this anymore. Like I don't
I
even know,
know, like
I mean, not, and I hate to say that because the actress that sort of took over for that role has now done an excellent job.
yes, yes.
I mean, I have no complaints over her, but Millie did such a great job sort of establishing that character. When she was gone, it really hurt. I mean, she just seemed
Yes.
like, because it seemed like she was just yanked away from us, like not
Yes,
even without any
yeah.
warning. So that really hurt. And to see her, I haven't seen her in, I don't think anything else. I know she's done some other work, but I do like the fact that, yes, I think she is great in this role, especially this Supergirl, because like you guys said, that she plays this like it's messy and yet you still like her. She might not have that movie star quality that you need to get like, 80 million tickets sold or whatever, but I still feel like she's really, really good in this. And I do think it would be a shame if we never see her as this character again, because I think she's capable of even doing more than what we see here. But not only the messiness of it, but also the story I think that's in the graphic novel and the story that's in the movie that was important to me is the reason that Kara is different than Clark, and she calls him Clark because she doesn't recognize him by his Kryptonian name because he's not Kryptonian to her at all, is the fact that she lost something like she knows what it was like on Krypton.
Mm,
She knows she had family, she had friends, she saw that and she had a traumatic experience and she's still not over it. She's still dealing with it. And that kind of level of what she's going through in this story, I think you need a compelling actress to be able to pull that off. And to me, like that's the crux of what this story is. And I thought she was great in all those scenes, whether it was the stuff on Krypton or the stuff later on when she was lashing out angry and when she was doing everything in between. I thought, man, she's got a range and she looks good in the suit. I saw one critic say that I don't know why they gave us this Supergirl. They should have given us a Supergirl origin story. And I'm like, this is Supergirl's origin
yeah.
in this
Yeah,
universe.
this is an origin
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
I get the impression that she's never put on the suit before. Like Clark gave it to her, but she's never put it on before. She just chucked it away and has never worn it. Like the first time she wears it, I think, is at the end of this movie. I got that impression. So I felt like this was very much a Supergirl story, an origin story for her. And it's just one that nobody, I don't think, unless you read even if you read the graphic novel, I don't know if you're expecting that. Maybe they could have done a better job marketing it that way, but I don't know if that would have made any difference.
I'm pretty sure she was wearing the suit at the end of the Superman movie.
Oh yeah, she might have been. Just because that's how we knew it was her, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe you might be right about that.
but you're right. During the movie, we didn't see her put it on until towards the end of the movie, which I thought was a good choice. Now, one of the things I think the movie did well was differentiate her from Clark.
Hmm.
They did a great job of showing that she was a different type of hero than Clark. I love some of their interactions they had during the movie. Clark is very excited for her to accept Earth as her home,
Mhm.
and the movie did a good job of showing she wasn't sure if she wanted Earth to be her home. She didn't know where she fit in. And that was kind of what she was trying to figure out as where she fit in. So I like the fact that the movie showed us that. I really like the ending with her and Clark talking.
I feel like they used the right amount of Superman. Like he did not take over the narrative and distract from her story, but it was nice to see him woven in at certain points.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
agree.
think he just serves as a reminder of what she's kind of rebelling against.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I felt like that was a good use of, and David is once again amazing as
Hmm.
Superman. I mean, he's just Superman right now, as far as I'm concerned. Like I look at him, I'm like, that's Superman right now.
Hmm.
So good on him. And yeah, I think that does take a lot of people by surprise. People who weren't familiar with the graphic novel, and the graphic novel doesn't go to the extreme that the movie does in separating the two of them. I think the graphic novel establishes that she's been Supergirl for a while. She is about hope. She is that character, but she just goes on this journey and deals with this trauma in a way that I think was kind of a new thing for the graphic novel to deal with. But I mean, if you look at her comic history, she's basically just a female clone of Clark. And I think that always did the character a disservice, even to the extent in Crisis where they kill her off because they're like, she's redundant. We don't need her. We can just kill her off. So her most famous moment in that age of comics is her on the cover in Clark's arms, in Superman's arms, dead. She gets better, like all superheroes, and lives, but they've always really struggled to really figure out comic wise who she is and how she's different and what you can do with her. To be honest with you, comic wise, I don't know that I've ever read a very extremely satisfying top tier story with her. I think Woman of Tomorrow is close, but before that, I can't point to very many runs of her book or stories that she was involved with that I really, really glommed onto the character. So I think this is really good, but I also understand that, she doesn't have she doesn't have a library of great stories, great villains that you can bring out, stories that you can tell. I like the series with Melissa Benoist. I thought that was really solid, but even that suffered from like being Clark Jr., where it was like she's set up at a newsroom, she does the same thing, she's just a female instead of a male. And I think it's important to give her a different personality. And I think that the movie does that.
Talking about this kind of the movie being a stealth origin film, there's a couple points I want to hit on with that. I don't know from a marketing and audience appetite perspective if there's an appetite for new superhero origins. I feel like almost all of the new films we've seen, even going beyond last year, have not done well when they're trying to introduce new
Hmm.
characters. Characters like Blue Beetle, for example, I thought that movie was pretty good, right? Absolutely
Oh,
tanked.
I know. I love that one too.
And in a sense, Fantastic Four was not a true origin film, but it's the new entry of the characters, right? Thunderbolts, in a sense, was a new entry of a set of characters, even though we did know all of them, right? In a sense, they're still in their own way origin films, and I think Supergirl is that too. And I get why you wouldn't want to maybe market it that way because I would, as if I was marketing this, I would have been nervous about marketing it as an origin because I feel like in my very, very amateur reading of the tea leaves that there is not an appetite for origin films. Maybe it could have set expectations if it was made clear it was an origin. I don't know. But, I think it works in that it's similar to some of those other films that I mentioned where it's a little mix of both, where it's a little bit like Superman last year, where it sort of just drops you into the character, but it is also still her kind of becoming Supergirl. And that's a pretty, and not in a bad way, that's a big difference, I think, from the comic, because in my opinion, one of the core things that makes the comic so compelling is that something King, the author, does really well is he shows her superness, so to speak. Like it's demonstrated in many different ways throughout the comic how great she is at being Supergirl and all of the super things that she does in different ways through the journey. But under that layer of that is the trauma of Argo City and the increasing trauma of the journey that they are on and the weight that she is bearing by being Supergirl and the expectations of her being Supergirl and just being sort of expected to deal with all of these things that have been thrown at her in the past and are thrown at her in the story. And it kind of comes to bear towards the ending of the comic. And that is what makes the comic, to me, so compelling. It's a seasoned Supergirl kind of breaking down in the moment, ultimately rising above, but breaking down in the moment from the weight of being Supergirl. And you can't do that in this movie because we've never seen her before, so you have to take a different approach.
Right.
By what the movie needed to be, I think they did a good job where they took a very similar, it's not the same kind of mindset, but it's, you can still see the roots of it there where it's her again dealing with the trauma of Argo City, but instead of being the weight of Supergirl, instead it's her trying to kind of push away. She doesn't want to be that because she sees what Clark is doing and that's not really what she wants. Actually, she doesn't think that's what she wants. And that's also really interesting. So that's the thing, yeah, it's different from the comic in that regard, but I think that's also a really interesting approach. And frankly, it's necessary because you can't do this movie right now with the Supergirl that's in the comic, because in the comic, she's existed as Supergirl for years. And in this, we saw her for 5 minutes at the end of the last film. So
Right. I agree with that also, because one of my favorite things about the graphic novel is that they make it clear throughout the journey that she's being targeted, not because she's Supergirl, but just because she's wearing the same symbol as Superman. And Superman has been established for decades also, and he's made a lot of enemies, and she's a target. She's a target because of him. And so she's got that to live with as well. So she can't just live her own life. She's actually has to go around and worry about people picking on her just randomly at any time just because they want to get back at him. And we don't get that in this movie, which I understand why we couldn't. To your point, it's too early for both of them. You can't really play that, which, yeah, you can tell the same kind of spine of story, but you can't get into some of those details like the graphic novel did. It's a little different experience. But I thought the movie did a pretty good job doing it this way. To be honest with you, if you were going to do another Supergirl movie to start with, I don't know what story you pick if you don't pick this one, right? So.
I agree. In my opinion, it's by far the easiest story to pick. It's recent, very well received. Drew and I both loved it when we reviewed it. It's one of the few Supergirl stories I feel like you can pick out and be like, oh, how good you thought it was can vary, but that's a notable, distinctively Supergirl story, and there aren't tons of them.
Exactly.
One of the things I was disappointed in wasn't the portrayal, Ruthie, because I thought she was portrayed pretty good. It felt like she was more of a background character in the movie than she was in the graphic novel. And some of the things I'm talking about is when Kara goes on the bus. In the graphic novel, Ruthie's on the space bus, and it's the monster that's laying on her, and she's annoyed by it. In the movie, it's Supergirl. And then another example is one of the things I liked in the graphic novel is when they're on the planet with the green sun, Ruthie is helping Supergirl by defending off these monsters that are trying to attack her. And I think that was one of the things I was disappointed wasn't in the movie. She did have her moment to shine when she was in the jail cell next to Lobo. But other than that, she didn't do much but be a damsel in distress in this movie, even though she still had the same gumption to get her revenge on Creme of the Yellow Hills.
Drew, I think one thing that's going into the film, I anticipated that because I don't know that there was a way to in the film in a satisfactory way. In the comic, fundamentally in the comic, Ruthie is the main character. She's the narrator of the story. It is technically her story. I mean, it is very much about Supergirl, but it's about her journey with Supergirl. And I guess it would have been interesting to see what that looks like, but I don't think you can make Ruthie the main character of the movie. It kind of has to be Supergirl. When that happens, I think the necessary sacrifice is that Ruthie gets pushed off to the side somewhat. Now, I agree. I thought they could have, for me, I understand that the movie has to focus more on Supergirl than the comic does. But for me, it was the timetable that they went with. And again, I know I could see both sides of the argument. I think that they want to make sure that the film, you feel the urgency. So they put a 3-day time limit that the comic does not have. And that limits how long of a journey that you can take. But also the problem with that is that because the story only takes place over 3 days, it's hard for you to show that relationship growing because they've only known each other by the end of the film for 3 days. Again, I understand you have a limited runtime for the film and you want to create a sense of urgency for the audience, but I do wonder if you relax the time limit that you have to save crypto, does that allow for a longer trip that we don't necessarily need to spend deep moments for weeks, right? But like, can you show that with a montage or like with like smaller clips of them? You know what I mean? Like, what if when they're buying stuff in the convenience store, that's a small scene, and then you're at another planet and you see something, then they're in another planet. I think, again, without adding a significant runtime, I do think that there were ways that they could have built that relationship more between the characters because one thing my wife went to see the movie with me, one thing she thought was that it felt like it went from, in her opinion, Supergirl hating Ruthie to being her best friend and like just there was almost no transition.
Yeah, I know the graphic novel, it took them months to track
Months.
down.
I think it took years,
Did it
didn't
take
it? And
years? I don't remember.
The graphic novel seems to take like a insane long time. Like to the point where you're just like, I think at one point I was just like, well, the way they handle the whole crypto thing is I think it's better in this movie than it was in the book, to be honest with you. Because the way they, even though that is a big plot hole in itself, because you're like, well, why doesn't she just like go somewhere, like take him to a yellow sun place and then he'll be fine, right? Like it's like, why do we have to, like she could have had crypto on the bus and gone to a yellow sun and he would have been fine. So there's a kind of a big gap there. And like I said, the way the movie does that, I mean, the way the graphic novel does it too, where it's like, it feels like it's years that they're together before they track down. But to your point about Ruthie, I do think the one thing that the graphic novel does in her case, besides having her narrate and everything, much like True Grit, is that first of all, she's more accomplished. I think we are led to believe in the graphic novel that she is a fighter. Like she's a warrior. She can do some fighting. So she's not completely. So when she goes on this quest, yeah, she's not exactly like stupid about it. She's not like, does have some skill. Now she's just a little girl, sure, but she does have some skill. And the other thing about this too is that the guy that she's going up against in the graphic novel is not a super arch criminal either. He's just this dude that, I mean, the villains in the graphic novel compared to the movie are very different, although they're both kind of bland, actually, if you ask me. But the movie, I don't think the story's about them anyway. So I think they serve their purpose, but I do think that they're kind of the weakest parts of both. But like you think like Ruthie has a chance against the bad guy one-on-one, I think in the graphic novel, but here you just, no way.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I wanted to point out about Crim of the Yellow Hills. Because in the comic book, he was a desperate, outmatched coward who was on the run
Dang,
for
yes.
almost the whole miniseries.
Mhm.
And in the movie, he had super strength. And in the comic book, to battle against Supergirl, he used a magic spell called the Mordru Globe. That globe is what actually sent her to that planet with the green sun.
Mm.
So, that was far different from what was in the movie.
I actually would really like to get into Krem real quick because for me personally, I think this was something I was not expecting fidelity to the story, but this is a change that I think was in my opinion, for the worse.
Yeah, I do too.
Because Drew, your description of Krem was perfect. I think the core characteristic of Krem in the comic is that he is a coward above all else. The like number one thing about Krem is that he's a coward and he will run and he knows, and the comic makes it very clear he can't fight Supergirl. That if she ever does catch him, it's done. It's over. Mike, I agree with you where the story's not about him, right? The story is about the journey and, the sense of self-discovery for both Ruthie and Supergirl. And yes, he's like the MacGuffin. He's like the Infinity Stone that they're trying to collect, right? But he's not the threat. And
Right.
he sort of ends up being part of the Brigands, where he's not the one that runs it, right? He kind of joins up with them, and the comic gives you some sort of bigger threat to deal with. But Krem himself is not a threat in the comic at all, and that to me was sort of the point to his character is that he knows he can't fight her, and he is fundamentally a coward. He kills Ruthie's dad in the comic alone in a field, like stabs him in the back. Right, with no one else around, and then he shoots Crypto because he's scared. It doesn't think it'll do anything, and the arrow works because they're in a red sun. And then as soon as that happens, he runs away. And then, like you said, Drew, he uses the orb to get away again. His whole core thing is running away and trying to find other people to protect him because he knows that he cannot beat Supergirl, and Supergirl knows that he can't beat her. She's just got to catch him. And I kind of would have preferred something like that for the film. And I know that the thought is going in is you got to have a really good villain for a superhero movie. And I don't disagree with that necessarily, but the film tries to position Krem instead as a huge threat, right? They make a point to show the super strength. He's the leader of the brigands. He's the main generator of evil, so to speak, in the movie. But still, fundamentally, he also can't fight Supergirl, right? Like when we actually get we get to brass tacks, he gets his ass beat. So I felt like the movie was trying to have its cake and eat it too, where it's like, oh, well, he's the big bad, so he has to have the powers and the threat level of a big bad, but also it's Supergirl, so he stands no chance against her. So but my point is, if you're going to do that, and I would prefer that, if Supergirl, when she gets a hold of him, is going to manhandle him, then he doesn't need to be portrayed as a threat earlier in the film, because we all know that she's going to crush him. Right? I think it's more interesting in that case, instead of needlessly building up how strong he is just for him to fold like a paper bag, right? Instead, emphasize the cowardice. Emphasize the fact that he is running away with his tail between his legs because that's who he is fundamentally as a character. I don't think it's a coincidence that Tom King picked yellow as part of his name. Like, I think I genuinely think that's a core part of it. Like, it's a core part of his character.
Tom's not that subtle. So yeah.
No. So for me, I didn't think he was a bad villain by any means, but I feel like he ultimately becomes kind of forgettable because he's just sort of like another dude that gets folded by the hero in the third act. And I think it would be more interesting and something that we haven't seen to have a villain that knows that they can't beat the hero, that the hero knows that the villain can't beat them, and it becomes more about the pursuit than the fight itself.
That would have been super interesting. Even though I've not read the original story, just hearing you describe it sounds really fascinating. And I know that I'm always we've seen a lot of superhero movies by this point, and I'm always looking from something new and different. I love the idea of someone who did something bad, but they're not actually that impressive of a villain. And they're just like running away, like they do bad things because they're cowardly. So I think that would have been really cool. And I would have liked to see it after hearing you guys describe and talk about it.
Yeah, instead they turned Krem into like this wannabe on like in a Mad Max movie or something, and it just doesn't like. I'm like, I don't know why they felt the need to change it. I guess to your point, Cletus, they felt like they needed somebody, more powerful or whatever, because it's a superhero movie and you need to do this. And I do think that was a mistake. Change, because I think what makes Krem unique in the graphic novel is that, he still is able to elude them despite the fact that he cannot go up against them. And when you have someone as powerful as a character as Superman and Supergirl, I do find sometimes the writers constantly have to think of excuses for them not to be powered up, because if you go up against them, you are going to get whooped. Like you're just going like there's not very many that can go toe to toe with these two. So, but it gets clunky. Like I remember, as much as I love like the Justice League cartoon, it seemed like every other episode, Superman was getting hit by something magic because that would take him out, right? So, and in this one, you can really see it's obvious that they are going through like these convoluted ways to depower her, poisoning her with this or giving her a green sun, even though that's from the graphic novel, but then poisoning her again with the arrows, having her in a powered, like she's not really fully powered up until I think maybe the very end. It's like that's kind of weak as far as your writing goes. I mean, you should be able to navigate that a little bit better and come up with ways that, I mean, I thought that's one thing that the graphic novel did was, even though Krem's not very powerful, he's still able to elude them. Whereas this guy should have been whooped, halfway through the movie. Yeah. And I have to say on that level too, the action sequences in this movie are very just sort of blah. I think the one at the end that was impressive to me is when Ruthie is surrounded by the Road Warrior gang. And then Supergirl goes in and takes him out. And you see this sort of slow-mo rotoscope thing that really I thought was effective. And there was a couple of other neat sequences that were done well, but I didn't think this was a great sort of action movie as far as overall that goes. So, you've got these fight sequences that I don't know if they necessarily needed to be there because they're not in the graphic novel. So they just kind of had to put them in there because it's a summer tentpole movie. You gotta have action sequences, and they just felt like flat to me. The only thing that really, like when they're on the planet in that city and there's the fight when we get Lobo and everything like that, to be honest with you, I just thought that was a mess. The only thing that came out of that really affected me was the fact that the villain kills the family, and that really, like, I did not see that coming, and that really took me by surprise, and it should have made me really, really hate the villain, but he was so boring I didn't really I didn't really care at that point. I was just kind of like, well, that happened, and then it's kind of not really mentioned again.
I would agree with you. The fight sequences didn't do a ton for me either. And for me, one of the things that I personally pinpointed as part of what made those fight scenes lack to me was the backgrounds, the most drab backgrounds
Mm.
throughout the film. And it's crazy to me that that's a problem for the movie because if you just look within what James Gunn has done so far, James Gunn has been very colorful across his DC stuff so far with Suicide Squad, the Peacemaker show, and I know that it's all him directing, and Superman, but all three of those are very colorful, vibrant. The comic is a beautiful, vibrant comic with a lot of color. And so you've got both the source material and the universe that you're working with and the guy running it are all coming at you with a lot of vibrant color and stuff kind of popping out at you at the screen. And they're like, what if we filmed in the middle of nowhere, Iceland? And like, I love Iceland, don't get me wrong, but like the setting does nothing. It's just black hills of rock. There's nothing there.
The graphic novel, Ashley, and people listening, if they haven't read it, I mean, we've talked about the story, and that's significant, obviously. But really, the pairing of Tom King with art by, is it Bilquis Evely? Is that how you pronounce her name? I'm not sure, or his name. In any case, is stunning. I mean, it's a beautiful book. There are beautiful settings, beautiful. I mean, and some of the imagery is pretty horrific because of some of the things that happen, but yet it's done in a very significant, beautiful style. And yeah, I don't think that the director, Craig Gillespie, or any of the people on staff really, the art direction does this movie any favors, because you can't really look at it and go, man, that was really gorgeous. There's only one shot that I really thought was impressive from a directorial point of view, and that's the one where after the family gets killed, I'm not sure exactly when it happens in the story, but Kara goes and he flies up and she just screams, but you can't hear her.
Yeah.
And then you see her tear sort of left in space. And I was like, that's just gorgeous. Like that's
a great scene.
That's the most memorable thing of this movie. And I don't think that's in the graphic novel, but that was a nice addition.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mike. That's a great scene. Again, I'm a little bit surprised at the bland art direction of the film because I felt like, to me, after having watched the film, it felt like somebody trying to do James Gunn, but not be James. Like you see, like she's got the headphones and the cassette player or the iPod. Like it's so much of it. Like you got the alien popcorn thing. Like there were so many like James Gunn things in there. It felt like someone trying to do Guardians of the Galaxy in some regards, but like missing some of the things that made that work. But they literally had the dude there on set. I mean, I know he wasn't necessarily there every day, but he was there. Like the resource was there to use. And so I was surprised because I have to admit, like going in, I really was kind of expecting some colorful pop, some scenes that would really maybe, how the film plays out, whatever. But I was expecting some big cool set pieces, not necessarily action, but you know what I mean, just like some cool art direction, some cool special effects, whatever. And I just didn't really feel like we got that at all.
And it seems like a little thing, but it makes a big difference. I mean, if you're paying $15 minimum to go see it on a premium screen, if you see shots and scenes that you've never seen before and colors pop, that will be something you remember, and that'll just add to the quality. That makes it like an okay movie, like a great movie experience in the theater. So little touches like that, I think, make a big difference, and I wish they'd taken those extra steps to do that.
And that's exactly what gets other people to go out and say, "Hey, the reviews for this maybe aren't great, but it's beautiful. You should go check it out." Like that's how you generate. One of the things Superman I thought benefited greatly from a box office perspective was fantastic word of mouth.
Yes.
And there were many things that go into that, obviously, but I do think a better art direction for this film, I think, could have gone pretty far, honestly, without changing other things in the story. I do think better art direction could have gone a long way towards generating a lot better word of mouth buzz.
I do, though, will say that I think they did an excellent job with Krypton and Argo.
Yes.
Those cities were represented very well. Those sequences were very well done, very photogenic. They felt alien enough that I really appreciated them. I mean, yeah, Krypton kind of looks like Naboo a little bit. But I thought those scenes looked pretty good. I mean, if the point of the movie is to show you why she misses being at home, I was like, well, that looks like a nice place to live. It would suck if I got that ripped away from me too.
Yeah. And I think there could have been a really cool opportunity because one of the things I was excited about this movie is that it was set in space and not on Earth. So I think that is an opportunity to show like a lot of cool places and like things that people have never seen before. Just kind of like see like Supergirl fighting on like another planet, like it's Star Wars meets superhero movies. So yeah, I agree. I think they could have done more to really punch up the visuals a little bit.
Jason Momoa as Lobo.
I was gonna say she served it right up to you, Drew. That's a great segue. You punch up to Lobo.
Yep.
He was awesome, but honestly, he didn't really need to be in the film.
Yeah. I was conflicted on this, Drew, because he was really, really good as Lobo. I thought it was a very accurate portrayal of Lobo. One thing I wasn't sure was, were we going to get where, they portray him as having a little bit more of a heart of gold and he's a little more heroic than Lobo should be. And they didn't do that. I mean, he's self-serving the entire time. Like he is purely about the bounty the entire time that he's there. And the only time that he breaks from that briefly is he collects he collects his bounty first, and then Krem is like 5 feet away from him. So he's like, oh, hey, since I'm here, I might as well do Ruthie a solid and kill this guy real quick, and gets talked out of it, right? But other than that, he's purely there to do his job, which is a very good portrayal of Lobo. So I have to give him a lot of props with that. But to your point, Drew, if Lobo's not in the movie, I don't know that the plot changes like at all.
I don't think it does. But one of my favorite scenes with Lobo, because Kara knows who he is, and Ruthie being like the Ruthie in the comic book, that's one thing I liked about Ruthie in the comic book. She was wanting to do anything she could to get her revenge on Krem of the Yellow Hills. And one of the things she wants to do in the movie is go up to Lobo and ask him about helping. And what was funny was Supergirl knew who Lobo was, and she was like trying to get Ruthie not to engage him at all, not even look at him. She ends up, Kara's distracted going up to him, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I think they could have they could have used Lobo a lot better, for sure, because it would have been an alternative. Like if you're not getting if Kara's not going to do this for you, then this guy will. Like, this guy, you don't even have to. I don't even think his fee is that much. If you just promise him the sword, when Ruthie first walked into the bar at the beginning, if Lobo had been an option instead of Kara, then By the way, I saw an interview with, I think it was with Tom King, or someone referenced the fact that, and I'd never heard this before, so I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or not, but my understanding from reading this is that when Tom King first pitched this idea to DC Comics, it was a Lobo story.
Interesting.
I hadn't heard that.
No, he wanted to do like True Grit with Lobo.
Interesting.
And I guess in talking to the editors or whatever, they formed it into a Supergirl story, which I think is better for it. But obviously the proof is in the graphic novel. But I do find it kind of cool that Lobo's in this story, which was supposed to be his anyway. But yeah, I mean, Jason's great, but like the scenes that he's in, to be honest with you, were not that memorable to me. He doesn't really do anything fight-wise or action-wise that I thought was that great and memorable. If you're trying to like shoehorn a possibility of a Lobo movie in this, I'm like, that failed because I mean, I would go to see it because it's Jason Momoa, but I kind of feel like the inclusion of him was forced because they were like, we need something for the guys in this movie. We need a guy hero in this movie or something that the guys can hold on to because of the whole, whatever it is about female heroes. And the fact that it's Lobo is kind of funny and ironic in and of itself, but I don't even feel like it played out that way. And yeah, I'm not saying it's a waste of him. It's fun, and I would love to see more of him, but really more because it's Jason Momoa playing the character that he should have played from the beginning in the DC universe, rather than anything that this movie really does for him.
Going into the movie, I kind of thought that they might go in a not villain route, but an antagonistic route. Like they could have, like they're getting in the way of his bounty, and so they come like that could have been where like if you felt the need to have someone that could physically go toe to toe with Supergirl. I feel like Lobo was staring them in the face that they could have used him.
Yeah.
And again, not to be clear, not as the villain of the film, but like at some point, if you feel like you need to have someone actually be able to fight Supergirl in a sequence, Lobo's there, and then you can still have Krem not be that. Yeah, I feel like they could have done again, like almost like a Deadpool kind of balance where like he can be not helpful, he can be helpful depending on the situation. He's mostly like again, he's very much true to his character, but he is like almost entirely helpful in the film, which is a little bit surprising given most of his appearances. Like there's usually a little bit of like you don't want from him. I think part of that is he's not really a PG-13 character. Especially like his core weapon is that hook. Like you can't really show him really using that in a PG-13 film. And so I do think that his character was straining against the rating a little bit. But I feel like they could have again kind of had more of a, sometimes helpful, sometimes antagonistic. I think it would have given him more reason to be in the film if he is maybe a speed bump to the overall journey.
Yeah, I was really surprised when Krem wasn't his target. I was like, well, then okay, like then there's no like they're gonna work together. Like it's just that where's the drama in that? Writing 101, make them he needs to be an obstacle and so yeah, make Krem his target as well, and then they're butting heads. I mean that makes sense. Or he can say they're working together, wink wink, but he's gonna stab him in the back as soon as he can and he gets the opportunity. So my partner Michelle doesn't really have a history with comics and she didn't really know Lobo from anybody. So this was her first, I think, experience with Lobo. I don't know, has Lobo ever been in live action before?
So.
This is his first time,
think
right?
So.
It's got to be his first time.
Yeah, I don't remember him being in any live action.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if he was in Smallville or something like that before. Anyway, so when we came out and when we were looking at the popcorn buckets and everything, they had a few of them that had, Lobo's bike and Lobo was on the top of the drink holders and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, why is Lobo on all this stuff? Like she was almost offended. She's like, why isn't like Supergirl and Ruthie on all the merchandise? Why is Lobo on all the merchandise? She's like, he's like in the movie for like 5 minutes. And I was like, well, he's kind of a thing. So, and obviously that's for the boys, the boys to buy those toys, because none of the Supergirl stuff really, as popcorn bucket wise, looked good at all. And so, yeah, that was a mistake as well, I think.
All right, I want to talk about the ending of the movie, because in the comic book, when they finally caught up with Krem of the Yellow Hills, they stuck him in the Phantom Zone, and then years later they pull him out, and then you think he's going to be let go, and then Ruthie kills him. And then
she doesn't kill him. She knocks him out.
Oh, she just knocks him out?
See, this is a contention. Like, I thought, Drew, I'm with you. When I read it, I thought she killed him. I thought for sure she killed him. And then, I read later that Tom King said, no, she didn't kill him. And I'm like, the last panel is him just laying there. Like, the last panel is him, like, quote unquote dead. Nobody else is around. He's just laying in this field, like assumingly dead. It's in shadow, so it's hard to tell. But
Yeah,
I
but you see him grabbing his face. Like if you go down the sequence, it's her clubbing him with her cane because she's old at that point. And then you see him in the last three panels going down. He's slowly grabbing his face because she probably busted his nose.
Yeah, he busted his face, but then in the last panel is he's just still laying there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so he grabbed his face because it's bleeding and nobody's helping him. So I guess, but I think, even though Tom's saying that, I think he's left that ambiguous for a reason, right? It's like the Killing Joke all over again. It's like, did he kill him or did he didn't kill? So I think he wants the reader to make that up in their own mind, right? And there's another time in the graphic novel where Ruthie is choosing revenge over allowing Kara to get the cure for crypto, which is pretty significant. That happens at the end, towards the end when they confront him. And that's gone from the movie as well. So I felt like that wasn't played out very well either. But yeah, their solution in the movie is just to have Kara say, like, don't do this, and then go ahead. And then she goes ahead and kills him.
I was baffled by that decision personally.
Is it Man of Steel all over again?
That's what I was thinking of.
I think it's worse than Man. I think you can make an argument, at least for Man of Steel, that Zod really does not give him a choice. Now, you can argue that you don't need to write him into a corner like that. That's fair. But from like at least within the story, Superman really is left with no choice at that moment. Supergirl literally spends a monologue talking Ruthie out of it, which is fascinating because in the comic, it's the reverse. Because the comic, in the like present of the story, the comic ends with Supergirl holding the sword over him and Ruthie talks her out of it. Because at that point, all of the stuff throughout the whole journey has finally weighed down on Supergirl to a point where like it's not just about crypto anymore. It's about all of these other things. And she's finally she's about to snap essentially, and she's ready to just kill Krem. And even though he's captured, he's defeated, the story's over, and Ruthie talks her out of it. And then that's when they go with the Phantom Zone solution that Drew mentioned. And so they adapt part of that, right, in the film where you have Supergirl instead is delivering the like, you don't want to do this, you don't want to go down that road, which is fine. I'm fine with them flipping that. But then Supergirl turns around, like, okay, now walk away. Ruthie's not an idiot in the film either. She knows, like, why is Kara telling me to walk away?
Something's going down back there.
And just kills him. I personally did not care for that at all. And then on top of that, the Lobo reaction scene of him being like, yeah. And then it's like, no, man, like that. It felt like the movie was trying to convince us that that was the cool thing to do. And I was like, I'm not convinced. And Lobo isn't convincing me either.
Yeah, they would have almost had to maybe more that Kara chose to kill him so that Ruthie wouldn't have to carry that weight if they were going to go that way, kind of maybe emphasize that theme more. But then otherwise, it's just like, oh, well, Ruthie learned a lesson, but then Kara didn't. So it's kind of like a weird toss up at the end of the movie.
Ashley, you don't have the graphic novel to compare to, so I am curious as to, how you felt either way about what happened, what Supergirl does here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit shocking because like you've gone through this and Kara's trying to teach Ruthie like revenge doesn't lead you anywhere. And then you have a moment like, oh, it looks like Kara is getting revenge because she's like, this is for Ruthie and her family and this is for my dog. So it's like, oh, this is revenge. So I think maybe it would have played a little bit better if she'd said something like, I'm not a screenwriter, so this is not as eloquent as it could be, but like it's like, I'm going to kill you so that you are not going to haunt Ruthie and that she won't ever be tempted to come back and get you and so that you can't hurt anybody else. Like I'm going to take that burden on and carry it for Ruthie. Or maybe if we'd even seen them leave the planet together and then Kara goes back later and kills him when Ruthie is a lot farther away than just like 20 paces down the desert thing. So I think there's maybe ways they could have done it to add a little more nuance instead of just feeling like, oh, like Kara just went ahead and took some revenge for the act of violence against her dog. So I think there's more nuance that they could have handled with it had they chosen to go that route.
I thought one of the reasons why they might have done it too was also to show her being different from Clark.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe that was another choice why they did that, even though I didn't think it really made sense for her character.
Yeah, because I think they're different enough already. Like they handle things differently, like they relate to the universe differently. So I don't think you need to have her do that just to show that they're different characters.
I do love the line that they did use in the trailers, which was Kara saying that my cousin sees the good in all people, but I see the truth.
Yeah.
And I like that difference between them. But I think it's notable too, symbolic, that she's chosen to be Supergirl here at the end. She's wearing the suit and she kills him wearing the suit. Then she parties with Ruthie for a little bit, and then she goes home to Clark and acts like everything's cool. Like all this stuff that she was telling Ruthie about, like you're not going to be able to live with yourself, it's going to haunt you and everything like that. There's no repercussions. There's no repercussions on Kara at all. It's almost like she needed to do this to get over her own personal trauma, which that opens up a whole can of worms too. I don't really like that as an ending either. I mean, yeah, I would have liked to seen that play out a lot better because it seems just clunky. And I have fur kids. Anybody who messes with my fur kids, I'm killing them. So I understand where Kara's coming from. I mean, Crypto is a deer. So if anybody hurts Crypto, I'm with her. I'm like killing him. But
Let's saddle up.
but she should be above that. But I'm not wearing an S on my chest, right? Like I'm not. Like it's funny because she didn't even like stab him. I mean, she could have killed him in a whole sorts of ways because she's so super and strong and everything at that point. But yeah, I mean, she does literally like toss him around a lot before that, which is very satisfying.
It's
But
funny
I wasn't
that
satisfied when he died. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt awkwardness.
it's funny that Ashley mentioned Saddle Up because one of the characters we didn't have in the movie that was in the comic book was Kara's horse.
Look at me with these intros tonight, not even planning it. So
Comet the Super Horse. I was hoping there would be like some sort of joke reference to it, or like, oh, can you imagine if I had a horse sort of thing? Like I knew we wouldn't actually see Comet, but man, it would have been pretty funny if they had.
Yeah, to be honest, in the comic, it takes place over all like this extended amount of time, and Comet gets involved, and you kind of wonder why other super family doesn't get involved or other characters or whatever. But I'd actually forgotten that Comet was in the graphic novel, and I don't think I would have liked it if they had made a joke about it either. It's because I kind of these superhero movies want their cake and eat it too. It's like they want they want us to be like, hey, they're superheroes on the screen, but then they kind of go, aren't they silly? Like, aren't they silly? And I hate it when they do that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she had a horse. Wasn't that silly? It's like, no, Comet was freaking cool. Like
The comic stuff in the comic is some of my favorite sequences in the comic actually. There's one where he's like almost dancing across the page. It's like a 2-page spread and it's just beautiful. And I love that. And again, that was one of the things, like when they announced that they were doing this story, I was like, oh, well, we're definitely not going to see Comet. But his role in the comic version of the story is, I think, a big part of the different ending where Supergirl is prepared to kill Krem and has to get talked off of the ledge.
Yeah.
So obviously removing that story entirely does take away some of the stuff going there, but also the comet in the comic is also very much playing on the history of the character from the 1950s when the character first appeared, and he is, also a one-time love interest in the 1950s. So yeah, I don't know. There's no way I don't think they could have adapted that, but for people who have not read the comic that are interested, the Comet the Super Horse is actually one of my favorite parts of the comic.
It's beautifully rendered. I'll give you that. It is beautiful the way those pages are. The other thing about Supergirl's killing at the end kind of feels awkward is because, during the fight sequences, she doesn't go out of her way to like make sure nobody's dead. And there are some things that she does in some of the action sequences. I'm like, oh yeah, they're dead. Those people are dead. Those people are dead. Those people are dead. And so I feel like she's killing people left and right, but I guess you could argue that it's self-defense and all of that, not like straight up murder.
I'm okay with her not having the same like pathological protection of life like we see with, that was something that I thought Gunn portrayed really well in Superman, was like he even protects the squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
That was nice.
Like, it's cool that she's different in that regard, right? That she has less regard for the safety of the people that the villains that she's chucking around. That's fine with me. Where for me, where it was too much is where it's one thing to do that in the heat of the moment when people are charging at you and you're just using your powers to brush them aside, right? It's another thing when you've got the villain on the ground defeated and then you stab him in the throat with a sword.
Yeah.
One of the things I liked about the end of the movie was when she returns back to Earth and her talk with Clark, because it felt like they were preparing for some sort of team up in the next movie in Man of Steel.
That's interesting, Drew, because actually I was left a little bit unsure whether it was supposed to be taking place that conversation before or after. Because he has that throwaway line where it's like, I really could have used your help with this last guy, and I didn't know if that was meant to be referring to Brainiac.
Mm.
And the implication that whatever happens in Superman's next film would have already completed by the time Supergirl returns at the end of her movie. I don't know. That his dialogue, I thought, left the door open, and to me, it was like, oh, maybe she won't be helping out in Man of Tomorrow.
Well, let me just read this release from Peter Safran. DC Studios' Peter Safran said Supergirl will return. Sequel in talk still. This is a direct quote from, while Supergirl didn't meet our box office expectations, it's just one component of a broader long-term strategy at DC Studios that we remain confident in. Supergirl will return in Man of Tomorrow, releasing July 9th, 2027. So she's going to be in it in some capacity.
She is listed. I have heard that she has appeared. I think she's already shot some of her scenes for Man of Tomorrow.
Good.
So
cool.
I don't know how big of a part she has. And Saffron saying that they're thinking about a sequel. That's like, I think he's writing a check that he can't cash. I think that someone else is going to have to make that is going to make that decision, really. But yeah, I don't think it's up to him. I would love it. To see more of her, and I'm excited to see her in any capacity. So I am excited for the new Superman movie anyway. But to see her in it would be great as well, because I would love to see them play off each other.
Yeah.
In a story, you don't get that very often.
Nope, you don't. And these versions will be interesting to see play off each other. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just that sequence where, she lands and he kind of greets her, the chemistry is right there. I mean, they don't know what they don't know what the other is talking because they're not speaking the same language, but yet there's still some chemistry there. And I would love to see a movie with both of them in an active story play off each other. I think that would be a lot of fun. I don't think it's going to be Man of Tomorrow, but if they do have a third Superman movie, I would love to see it be with the two of them sharing the screen with equal time, sort of battling something together.
Me too.
All right, I'm curious. Who stayed all the way to the end of the credits and was disappointed there was nothing?
Well,
I did too.
I always stay at the end of credits because I always read the credits because I'm that guy who always does that because I show my appreciation every time I see a movie. So I've always watched the credits, but I had already heard that there was no after credit scene, so I wasn't disappointed because I already knew that. It doesn't make or break a movie. It would have been nice to have something. And to be honest with you, that scene with her and Clark almost felt like an after credit scene. So I felt like that counted in a way. I'm fine.
I agree. The scene with Clark felt very similar to the scene from his film when she pops up at the end, where both of them had a after credit feel to them, where they feel like they're more kind of there to remind you that there's something else coming down the pipeline. But instead of sticking it at the end of the credits, they stuck it at the end of the movie. And I read something, I don't know if it's Mike, you would probably know better than me, that there was an after credit scene filmed and then they ultimately went in a different direction. It made me wonder if the scene with Clark was originally actually after the credits and they just shifted it to the end.
Yeah,
of
good
the
question.
movie.
I have not heard or read anything about that yet. Yeah, I'm not sure.
If that's the case, Cletus, that was probably smart on their part because a lot of people leave the theater when credits roll. It's usually the big fans that stay to watch the after credit scene anyways.
Yeah, but then those are also the fans that you're letting down because there's sort of an expectation that something's going to be there. So I see your point, Drew, but
yeah.
But I think too, I mean, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to have fun and leave the theater with a good like smile on your face because something funny happened, or it's a good way to lead up to something. And if you're building a new cinematic universe, I think you need all the help you can get. So you take that time to sort of like hint that something else is coming because it's never too early to promote, right? So I think it's a wasted opportunity to just let the credits roll and not have anything for people to talk about. Yeah, maybe we should have seen Comet in the post credit sequence.
That would have been fun. I was looking up some pictures of Comet just right now, and it does look pretty cool. So.
Comet and what's the name of the cat's name? Is it Streaky?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
Streaky the
that's
super
right. That
cat.
sounds right.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of super animals that came from, I don't know where they came. Was it Argo? I'm not sure, but the Argo has a different history, we'll say, continuity in this movie than I'm used to seeing in the that I grew up with. So,
Well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up the show.
DragonCon is calling, and we're your inside line to the con. Tune in to the DragonCon Report, where we dive headfirst into the personalities and behind-the-scenes stories that bring our beloved con to life, talking with track directors, creators, and more. From panels to performers and cosplay to cocktails, if it's happening at con, we're talking about it. Join us when we live stream, or catch the audio version later wherever you get your podcasts. The DragonCon Report, your home away from con.
All right, well, that wraps up our show. Did you have a shout out, Ashley?
Oh, just thank you again. It is always a pleasure chatting movies with folks from ESO. And as I mentioned, since I have two small kiddos, I don't get to do it as often anymore, but it is always a pleasure. So you're some of my favorite people to talk about movies with, and I enjoy everybody's insightful, thoughtful comments and the fact that people can talk and have different opinions about movies. And it's just a really great space. So thank you again for asking me.
All right, what's your shout out, Mike?
yeah, again, I want to thank you too because this is great fun to join you and Cletus once again, and Ashley, of course. If you want to see our terrible predictions that we
Oh
made
dear,
for
like
this
maybe
summer.
don't judge us too harshly. I don't know how far out the window it's yet, but
I mean, the summer's half over, Ashley, and I'm afraid our brackets are
are busted.
pretty busted. But we will be planning on doing a wrap-up episode for New Legend Lounge in September to clean up the mess.
Yeah.
So look for us both with Van to join us and talk about the summer that was. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be talking much about Supergirl because I doubt Supergirl even makes the top 10 for the summer based on the numbers, which is kind of sad because despite the nitpicking that we've done that I've done, I think over the last hour or so, I did like this movie a lot. And I actually would watch it again. And in some ways, I'm thinking about it. I kind of almost think I like this movie more than Superman. I know that's a mic drop, but it's a hot take, if as the kids say. But I don't know. It's sticking with me, and I'm still processing it. So I would like to see it again and sort of let it simmer for a little while. But I do think it's worth it. So anybody out there, I know we've spoiled it, but if anybody out there hasn't seen it, or certainly hasn't read the graphic novel, Ashley, you should do so.
Add that to my never-ending TBR list on Goodreads. So my list of shame, as I like to call it.
What's your shout out this week, Cletus?
Well, no surprise. It's got to be the graphic novel Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King. And I don't know how to say the author's name either. I actually wonder, is one of the planets they said is Bilky? And I wonder if they named it for the artist.
That's a good question.
Because I think it's the same. That's how I would think you pronounce their name, Bilky Evely. Anyway, I am a huge, huge fan of the graphic novel. Tom King is hit or miss for some people. I'm a big Tom King fan personally, and I think this is one of his better books. It's so good. And one of the things that makes it so easy, I think, to recommend and I like to loan it out to other people to check out as well, is because you don't need to know anything. It's a completely self-contained story. There's nothing that happened before this story that you need to know. There's really nothing that happened. Like, it's not connected to anything else. It's just a self-contained 7-issue journey that her and Ruthie go on. And it's so good. It's beautiful. The artwork is so good. I highly, highly recommend the comic. That would be one of my strongest recommendations for like if you like what you saw in the movie, you should check out the comic. This one, because most superhero films that we have gotten, both DC and Marvel, are more loosely inspired by certain things. Like, Batman will take loose inspirations from Long Halloween, or All-Star Superman is something that a lot of different directors have pulled some stuff from. But this movie is like very, very directly based on the comic, and we haven't seen a lot of that in live action. So check it out. It's excellent.
I got to ask you guys, because you guys are much more knowledgeable about it. Did Tom King either follow this up with another Supergirl story, or is there like, because I know Supergirl is still a title that is ongoing. Is there like more where this came from? Does it, like, for me who read that graphic novel and was like, oh, I'd like to read more Supergirl, does this set the tone for how she is now?
No, it's very much in line with a lot of what Tom King does, which personally I actually kind of like that DC does this, because there's the constraints of continuity aren't on him, where they did the same thing with Adam Strange, where he just tells this story and it's just out there. It's this own self-contained story that sometimes for some people does something with a character that they don't like, or does something different, but then DC just sort of lets it float out there. And that's very much, at least from what I've read, Drew, I don't know if you've seen something different. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is very much just its own story, and that's just it. It's like what Killing Joke was initially going to be before they decided, oh, but actually we do want Barbara paralyzed. But that was the only thing that kind of carried from that story. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is kind of just like that, where it's just its own, not an Elseworlds story officially, but it has that sort of Elseworlds feel to it, especially with the jump to the future. You just don't get that in continuity.
That's true. That's true. I just didn't know if he'd, because I'm surprised that something that's successful, he's never followed up with another Supergirl story.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was one of the things that got him the Wonder Woman book.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense.
That has been in continuity, and that has been
excellent.
I've really enjoyed it. It's been a very long form story, so it's one of the few comics that I can ongoing comics that I could recommend people getting into, because there is, a long-term payoff to the story. It's not just a 5-issue quick hitter and then we never talk about it again. So spiritually, there's a follow-up, I would say, with what he's doing in Wonder Woman, but as of yet, there's no direct anything with the Supergirl story.
All right, and for my shout out, I'm going to shout out about The Brave and the Bold, Volume 1, The Lords of Luck, written by Mark Waid and illustrated by George Perez. It came out in April 2007. When I was watching all the Supergirl reviews online, somebody mentioned this comic book, so I checked it out. The story has a bunch of team-ups. Issue 1 has team up with Batman and Hal. Issue 2 has a team up with Hal Jordan and Supergirl. Issue 3 is Batman and Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. Issue 4 is Supergirl and Lobo. And also Destiny of the Endless appears. Issue 5 is Batman and the Legion of Superheroes. And then issue 6 closes out the story with Green Lantern and Batman once again. But Adam Strange shows up, and so do Challengers of the Unknown. And then, of course, Supergirl's back in it. Pops back up in it again too. So I've read all the way through issue 5. I haven't got to issue 6. I couldn't quite get there before the show tonight, but I really enjoyed it. So that's my shout out to check that out. It's a good story that's got a lot of team ups in it that are fun, especially the Hal Jordan and Supergirl, Batman and Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle, and Supergirl and Lobo. Those are some fun issues to read. And you can't go wrong with Mark Waid and George Perez.
No, not at all.
All right. If you'd like to comment on anything we've talked about tonight, you can reach us at our feedback line, 317-455-8411. Text us, leave us a message, or you can email us at legendsofthedcu@gmail.com. All right, Cletus, coming up next week, we are going to be reviewing Titans number 21 through 27 and the Titans 2025 annual number 1. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.